Today is May 17, 2023. Our interviewee is Clara DeHaan. I am Susan Kendall, and we are in Toronto, Canada.
Right.
Good morning, Clara.
Good morning. Same to you.
Thank you. If we can start, you can just tell us your age and where you were born.
I will. Well, I be Clara de Hond, and my maiden name is Prijs. P-R long I-S, Prijs. And I was born in 27 of August 1931 in Amsterdam. And I live in the Retiefstraat, 83 hoog. I remember that. And from there,
Do you remember anything about the house or the neighborhood?
I remember that was Oost bij de Pretoriestraat en Linnaeusstraat en Tugelenweg. I remember die namen still, En dan over daar heb ik, je wil dat ik Engels spreek? So over there, my parents were telling me, I was at school, and I think it was the street, het was bij de Pretoriestraat, de school. Ik weet de naam niet meer van de school. En dan, I was there and I have to go to 3 different schools, want ik kon daar niet te lang blijven. Ik kon er niet te lang blijven omdat de oorlog uitbrak. Als kind zijnde. Right? Ik was toen de oorlog, ik ben daar van 19...
English.
Oh, so. I try to speak so good English as I possible can. Let me say it that way. The war was going, and then I have to move from that place with from schools, and I have to go to different schools. En wat kan ik meer vertellen? Ik ben hier still. Sorry when I throw one Dutch word between it. It's not with purpose, but I be not so good in my Engels. That is what I tried to say to you. Oh. I am from Amsterdam. I was going with my sister. In the evening we have to walk, want after 8 o'clock, we were not supposed to be on the street anymore. So 8 o'clock, we have to go to a different place. And that was from Oost more to farther north, that was south of north. I don't remember that. I remember the place where I have to walk to, but I don't know the street exactly anymore.
How old was your sister?
My sister was 4 years older than I. So, what can I say more to you?
Why did you have to go somewhere at 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock, we were not supposed to be on the street anymore. So we have to, I wore a yellow star, so did my sister. But my parents were better when I was not in the evening at home. Many times the razzia start, around in the area. And it was better when we were going somewhere else. So I walked with my sister to an aunt and uncle. I can't tell you, I know where it was, but I can't tell you the street anymore. So we sleep there, for the night, and then in the morning early we were going and walk back to the school where we have to go to, and my sister was another school than I was going when she was older than I was. So what I have to do, from my father was a tailor, and he make for me a coat, but on that particular coat was the color for my hair. It was blonde, and I had a really Jewish expression in my face. So I have to do the shopping, you know, what was close by, to the vegetables or bread or eggs, not only for my parents, but I did it for many other people's too, special family. And then...
Were you nervous when you were shopping?
Not really. I know I have to shut my mouth, you know, and when they ask, I was saying, you should have to pick something up for my parents, and that's it. I didn't speak too much, you know, and I only answer what they was asking me, and I say my name. And that was not really Price was not a really Jewish name, you know, that was my maiden name. What can I say more?
What was your home like? Did you practice traditions? Did you have a bedroom?
I had a bedroom with my sister, and and my brothers had I had two boys and two girls, right, in the family. My oldest brother was 2 years older than I was, and my youngest brother was 10 years younger. So we had all bedrooms, and the baby, by that time my youngest brother was baby, sleep with my parents in the room, and my older brother was in the special part from one room, and that was his room. There was a balcony in the front and a veranda in the back, I remember that. And it was across from an Inham, you know, the street was a circle, like, you know. And you had your friends, and you walked to school with the people who have to move to. What can I say? My mom started to work. She started to work to get an extra piece of paper, a spare, in a factory, that she get a piece of paper that she could stay home, that she have the kids, you know. I think that was the meaning from it, that she started working. And my father, he started to work beside that. He was a private tailor at home, but he started to work on the weekend in a men's store. Still that he makes some extra money, and he couldn't put on the side when it was ever necessary. We have to train in the house. There was one room, let's say that you had on the top from your apartment. Here is it a basement. Over there it was more a room on the top from the roof, close to the roof. So we have to train, the three of us, my oldest brother, youngest brother couldn't go with us, want he was just a baby, and my sister. So my father, you know, when this was the floor, and then on the floor you had, between the floor and under the floor, we have to crawl there in that particular room. And we had only water there in the room. So when it was very bad, then my father say, go upstairs and we know what to do. Crawl in that, under the floor, and my father pushed the table with a sort of carpet over it. And on one side it was, we had the water in that place. We have to lay there, you know, that they couldn't see us. And he didn't know where the kids were when they ever asked him, you know, when they know that there were children over there more than my baby brother. They were asking, and then he said, well, they play out, they are not home, they are, whatever the answer was from my parents to this special bad peoples who were coming to us to pick us up. And many times we trained there. Hardly a few times in the week we have to train what we have to do, you know, when it was very tense that they were coming for us. And then later on, it was going worse and worse.
What was happening?
And then my mother was working on that factory, what I just told you, to get a special spare. And then she got to know a lady there, and they become friendly with each other. And they say, well, my brother, she told my mother, well, my brother lives in Limburg. I will talk with him. Maybe you can bring the kids over there. There isn't, maybe he knows something more. And it was a very nice family, and we could trust them, and they checked out, my parents, you know, they checked out where the family was. They live in the Vrolijkstraat. I remember that. That's special, that straat. And finally, we get to know these people, or my parents get to know these people, special her brother from this lady who was working with her. And we call him later an Uncle Jaap. And he said, well, I will get you out of here. This is no life for you to live and for the children, and who knows how bad it's going. First, my sister and myself, he brought the brother from this woman. Mary was her name. Marie was her name. And then Uncle Jaap brought us naar een family where we only get to know the mother. The name was Amstelveen, the place. And we had a safe place there, my sister and myself. And then the rest from the family, he will take care of it. By that time, we didn't know. So we were very smart. You know, we were so, they talk us so much in, my parents, what we have to say and what we have to do and listen. And we are in good hands, but these bad peoples, when you stay here, that is not right for you, you know. And they do bad things to you, and they don't want us to live here anymore. So it's a long story, but I'm saying it in a short one. And then they brought us to these people to Amstelveen, and there was a daughter and a mother what we get to know. These peoples were not so nice to my sister and myself, you know. They were not so friendly, and the food was not so good. And we both get very sick. I remember that in my mouth, whatever I was eating, I can stir inside my mouth. I was very sick. And this daughter, they had a roei, a canoe there, a little bit, a boat. There was a sort of a lake. I don't know the name from that anymore. En er were to go with een roeispaan. I don't know the name in het Engels. Anyway, we go on the lake with the daughter. When we were in the middle of the lake, she jumps out, my sister and myself. We didn't know what to do. We never did that before. And she didn't care. But I don't care about you, and see how you come back. You know, I go home. And my sister was a few years older, and we did it with our hands, you know, to come to the end from the lake. And that was very hard for both of us. And finally, we come back, and we also always coming people upstairs, you know, in that family. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what was it. We were not allowed to speak, so they didn't give us too much answer anyway. But later on, first my sister was going away, say 2 days before me. This uncle from this, what we call Uncle Jaap, they brought us to Limburg. 2 days from each other, we were split. And when my sister was in Limburg and I was in Limburg, then later on my mother was coming over in that same place. This uncle picked up my mother and my baby brother, not my father. And this man was making a wall against a wall, a closet. So when there was something going on what was not safe for them to stay, then they were supposed to go in that closet. He put everything on the top of it. My youngest brother, he was too small to understand it. But I do remember my parents spoke with a doctor still in Amsterdam. That was before that we were leaving. In case they pick him up, he couldn't speak, so they let burn. His name was Simon. And they let burn an S on the top, down on his bum, on his back, but close to his bum. So the doctor was saying it was okay, and he showed my parents, so they put the S there from Simon. And later on, we didn't call him Simon anymore, and it was more a Jewish name, so we have to call him Money. Money was better, so, and we have to speak to him like Money, that he know it was his name, you know, when we say Money, that was before we were leaving, okay. So, we don't, so Money was not allowed to go in that closet, you know.
How old was he at this time? How old were you?
When I was there, it was 1942, I think, in the beginning. I don't know exactly the date anymore, you know. I know it was all together, I was 2.5 years, I was by myself, that I remember. Anyway, and then my father was still, he couldn't work in the house anymore, but he needed the money, so he kept on working on daytime in a men's store, and what he never did. And in the evening, he started work, a part-time job, and he rented by people's in a room for himself, so that he could, for the money what he make extra, he could buy tickets. I still have here one, I didn't know, I can show it to you. And then he get tickets, and of the tickets, he was sending peoples who were under the ground, what you call it, they were working, I don't know exactly the name, under the ground people. And so then he could give money to these peoples. He gets special tickets, so he could send it to feed peoples for my mother and my sister and my brother to get more food. And my oldest brother was going by parents from the same family, but the mother van his wife. She lived in Limburg too, so my oldest brother was going by the, let's say, the grandmother, not where my mother was and my sister. And he started to work, and by the underground, he have to bring envelopes of papers to other addresses. That is what he told me later. And so we were all separate. Me, myself, they brought me to a place, and that was a big farm in the middle from nowhere, but a big farm, only me. So I was by myself, and for that time I don't know from nothing, but so they say, I was a smart child, and I pick up what they told me to do. You know, when they say, do that, bake that, do that, do that, I did it. So there were 8 children, all small. And I have to take care of the kids. I have to make potatoes, a few pails every day full. I have to cut it. I have to do the laundry. I have to learn to milk the cows. I did everything what was done and what was necessary on a farm. And it was a big farm and was a big place. I was milk the cows, I was going on the horses. I was so young. What was I? 11 years. I was 12 years, 11 years. I don't know anymore exactly, but. And then, so I have to do everything from the laundry I have to do from all these peoples, you know. I work like growing more than growing up peoples. I start early in the morning till late in the night. I have to learn to knit. I have to do whatever was necessary for the kids, baking, bread, vegetables. I was working from one thing to the other one, every day, every night, and then I saw what was going on. Very hard-working people in their mind, but it was just I was working hard. What the man did there, he was working and the land and what you call it, and the property. And there were peoples later on, they kwam van Roermond. Van Roermond, they 4 men, young men, they were coming over and stay over there too in this place, and they have to help far away from that farm, but it did belong to them, you know. What can I say? I have to hold the chicken fast in my hand when they cut the cop off. And the first one, I didn't know what to do. I let the chicken go and he was walking. I never forget it. And it was a chicken without cup, without a head. But I have to do that. I hold that, they told me. And then they come and they cut the cob off. And for me, that was all. But I have known I was not allowed to say something, and I have to be very brave and do what they told me, so long it was things what I could do. I was cleaning the floors. I did everything. Call it, I did it. Ik make salami van what was they cut pigs, you know, the blood salami, and I have to help to make that. I did everything. I can tell you. When I forget something, but is I have to clean the inside from the farm. I have baking bread. I have to make the bread. You know, everything I have to do. And then the war started to be worse, so they were coming in that place. Later on, when I was there all quite a while, a group of peoples, let's say, who were against the war. And they stay in a special schuur, I don't know what you call a schuur, in a big building what belongs from them too. But there was nothing there, so they could put the beds where they sleep in and something. And it was around between 50 or 70 men, soldaten. It was all, they were soldiers, yeah. And then they were not always dressed like soldiers, but they were. That was official. The group, the head van that group, showed papers to the father van this farmer. And there were other people saying that it was official, it was okay. But I have to do more cooking, and they more and more and more. I was not a child. I was there with all growing up peoples. I was a child, a very young teenager, so to say. I had not. One time I was doing the dishes. And I was standing on the counter, and that was in one container. I have to do the dishes, and the other container was I have to rinse it. And the baby was in the high chair, the youngest baby beside me. And one of these peoples who were there with all these men, soldiers, they were coming in the kitchen where I was standing doing the dishes by myself with the baby beside me in the chair. And then he was going, he was telling me that he was going to clean his gun, yeah, the long one, and he had a short one, you know, a revolver, you call it, and a long gun. And then he was, and it was okay, the captain knew from the group, he was going to here, and it was a long work, you have to take it open and clean it and blah, blah, blah. And then he, on a particular moment that I was standing here with this, let's say I was standing there beside, it was big, you know. The table was a big table where we were sitting there and eat with the kids around. And then he keep, on a certain moment, I get shot from that particular soldat. Later on that particular moment of that day, nobody, not the father of this family or the mother, knows who that was, of who he was. It wasn't one of the group. They didn't know nothing about it. Later on, but that is a long time after that, they found out that he was a spy, a spion. He didn't belong there. He was saying these things to this father, mother, what I call by that time father, mother. They didn't know who I was. Nobody knew. I was a helper for the mother, for the babies, and I didn't have enough food for myself, for my parents. They were good, but they go and I was there, so to say, to help for the mother, for the babies, and I get better food, but I couldn't get from my parents more in Holland, in Amsterdam. They didn't know that I was Jewish, you know. So, and I never say that to nobody, you know. And they shot me in my legs, you still can see it. And the bullet was going in my feet, so I was falling, right? And the floor was a stone floor where they live, so the splinters was all over in my leg and on the floor. Lucky enough, not on the baby, and I was more or less protected. I was standing in the side from him, from the baby who was in the chair. So then, after that, he ran away, and then they tried to find him, but they couldn't find him. So later on, the doctors were coming, this father from this family. They put an apron on for his wife, where he couldn't put his arm on, that they could see he was not a man. He was afraid that he get shot too, so that it was a woman, right? To see if he could find this man who shot me, this soldier, but it was not a soldier. He couldn't find him nowhere. And then I have to lay there to the next morning that it get light. This father could go and ask to go to the village for a doctor. And he was coming back with a doctor for my feet, so to say. So I was a long time, I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand. I was laying there, you know, and they couldn't bring me nowhere to a hospital. That was very dangerous. So they built in the basement, they built spare beds. When there was very bad, then that the bombs were going down, then the kids have to go downstairs in the basement too, in another half, and I have to go in an other half in the basement. And then in the evening, these parents were coming. You know, that was a big place. They make help for when there was something that was dangerous to stay in that farm.
Bomb shelter?
Yeah, that then we have to sleep there. But I couldn't anyway. I heal, and then I have to start all over with working and working. Then one time the family have, well, there's a lot of things between us, but I can't tell you. I was alone, and I had my father, I told you, I have to go back, was a tailor. So he took the drapes from my parents before, but not the thin drapes, but over the windows do, you know, the thicker one, to make it dark in a home. He took that off and make from that material from the drapes, he make a suit for me that I was always warm, and a coat, and een suit van de drapes, a jacket and slacks, and the coat what I had, he likes to go to second hands, where you get second hands diamond, and a place where you could buy that, okay? So that he put it all in the hem van my jacket and my coat. He put a few diamonds. When there were bad peoples and they didn't let you go, then say, you have diamonds, don't do that to me, I give you something. They told me exactly what I have to say. And then he put a diamond there, and I put it there in different places from my coat, I think I sleep always in that suit, what he make for me, or by these farmers too. I sleep, I always say I be cold, and that was between it, just, you know, that is why from the one side from Amsterdam, I took that all over with me, you know. But nobody knows, you know. I was, so they say, a very smart child. So one time they took me, they have to go to from the church was an outing, and they have to go to the kerk, to the church with the kids. And so they took the kids with them, these farmers. And I got clean while they were gone. And I never forget, there are so many things. Now I can't tell exactly what I did first or what I did later. I was cleaning a pump where the water comes out. You know, when you pump the water, I don't know. I call it a pump. I don't know what it is in Engels. And it was copper, cold color, you know, like this light there. And I was dirty. I wear only klompen, wooden shoes, you know, not the regular shoes anymore. And I was cleaning that, you know. And it was coming in, I was cleaning and I had black hands. And there was coming a man to the door from the kitchen. But that is a big kitchen, okay. And he was all in the black, long clothes, a black hat, black in his, something for his face. I can only see the eyes. And he had something for his mouth. And he said that I have to come with him. I said, no, I have to work. Babies are sleeping here, you know, I can't go. I didn't know who that was, you know, I think they was a bad man, you know, who did all these bad things. I have to come with him. You have to come with me. Don't let me hurt you. You have to come with me. So finally, the way I was not even allowed to wash my hands. That was black. I had Amen. So anyway, I have to go with him and follow me. And there was, around this farm, there was his bike. And he say, I go on the bike and you go behind me. And then I have to do that. I didn't know what to do. I could jump from the bike, but I don't know where he was bringing me. And then he brought me to een bos with all trees, you know. But there was let's say, on the side was water, deeper. There was water and dirt, you know, what is beside the road here. And he said, you go in one of the, in this, under the ground, and it was with water and dirt. And what I have to, and I be okay. I be a good man. I mean not bad. Okay? Ik kom hier, you stay there till I come back. And when you have to sleep there, you sleep. And I have to sleep there. And I didn't know, that was already an end away from the farm, you know. But I don't know if he was good or that he was bad. That I had that. It could be right, it could be wrong. I didn't know. I didn't spoke with this man. The only thing that I didn't want to go with him, and that was one baby in the farm, and then okay, I don't worry. He look after that. And to make the story short, 2 days later, the same man. You know, that was all. So there was no house, no farm around there where I was. I was laying there, crying, dirty. You know, I was a child. So then he was coming back, the same man, when it was light, the second day it was lighter in the morning. And he said, go on my back again. And he brought me to a nonnenkloster. Now, I don't know what the name is in het Engels. And where the nuns are, the Catholic, they're in black clothes and white... yeah. And they brought me to that this house where these nuns all live. And they scrub me and wash me and they put my clothes on. First I was a nun, and when, so I was a nun, and I have to sit there and they give me food and milk and drinks and sit there, and then they, in a sort of a room I have to sit there and wait. And don't do nothing, sit there, don't walk away. And then I was a few days I was there, it was 2 or 3 days, I don't remember that. And they brought some clothes, regular clothes, what people's wear, but for older people. So I have to change in that clothes, what they give to me, regular clothes, no clothes from a nun anymore. And then people brought me to a family, and I could stay there. And there was a man, a woman, older, much older, and one child, and the child was maybe 5 or 6 years old. I don't know how old she was. Today I have to say that now to you, between. Today, she lives here in Canada, and I be still in contact with her, you know, with a child. What was when I in St. Catherine, I believe she lives.
Did they know you were Jewish?
No, they did. No. They didn't know. I was just a child, and nobody knows where I was. And I didn't want to go to Holland, Amsterdam. I didn't get food there. You know, I want to have food. I don't mind to help you with a child. The people who took me away, the man who was in it black, what I told you, okay? Later on, I come to know that he was a priest, and he was in the undergrond, you know, he know who I was, but he couldn't say nothing. I was not allowed to know it. I was a child, right? Don't forget. What do you know when you been that young? I don't know if you all that remember when you be that young what you did, what people say to you. So they didn't say, he was only saying to me by that time, I'm a good man, do what I say, you know. But later on, but that was later. I was there by this family, and I was thinking later on, they were very high Catholic, that this was, nobody knows that she was here once she was not to get the peoples who brought me over there, they were all ondergrondse. She have to be hide. When she is not hiding, they pick her up and bring her to bad places, not the concentration camp. And for the rest, they say they didn't say nothing to them, you know. But peoples were growing up, peoples much older than I am, maybe the woman is, the woman who was a child is now 85 years old. So her parents were older. You know what I'm trying to say? She is now 85. But I'm trying to say, I was there same few months, short time, but they were good to me. I help, but that child, say on the school where she was going, see, I have a sister, I have something, I have a sister, something how a kid was talking. They get to know that. These parents get to know that, and they have to say that to people who brought me from one to the other one, underground peoples, you know. They took me away from there. Then they brought me to another couple house. And there was a big factory van weefspoelfabriek. And I was still in contact with this one daughter from the weefspoelfabriek. And they brought me and they leave me there. But with the same condition, these underground people was going in contact with them. I didn't know that by the time. You know, stay there and it is good. We say it is good. I didn't say that I was Jewish. I couldn't say that. I was still that girl that helped with the kids, the little kids, dress them, sing songs with them, do things, play with them, bring them to the park. You know, I was a helper for that, for the younger kids, a few. I think there were 3 boys and There were all 5 kids, but all a nice family. And they had a big, when you see this, that wood, that is een weefspoelfabriek, that is what they make. Now, these peoples were very good to me too. Finally, I was there for a long time, and that is what they make. Finally, the war was over.
How did you hear?
These peoples, the farmers, they hear that the war was over. They found out that I was still to another family of a few weeks. Family from this weefspoelfabriek, a sister of some. I was there for a few weeks, and then I come back to the weefspoelfabriek. And they were very good to me, but I didn't say who I was. Don't matter how nice they was. I wear clothes from the woman, you know, and I was. Finally, I can show you a letter what she writes me still. Finally, these farmers, they get to know where I was. Kids from saw me in a park what was close behind the weefspoelfabriek. That was all big. So then the mother from the farmers kwam to that place and say, well, I will, she wants to have me back. Want I was such a good help. And she teach me everything. And the kids want her back. And I want her back. And these people didn't give me. She said, no, now is my girl. She's my mate. She's blah, blah, blah. So then I was there a long time. And then they come in contact with the underground people. And then it was okay when they brought me back to the farmers again, okay? To where I was the first time, where I was working so hard. And I told this woman in secret, and I have it in a letter, how afraid I was and how smart and how difficult it was for me to leave these peoples. And I told her, I have a secret, and you can, when you tell that to somebody else, something bad is going to happen to you. So don't tell that to nobody. And I told her that I was a Jewish girl. And then she let me go. She said, I let you go, I promise. You be such a brave girl. I will tell her nobody. En ik heb het in een letter stand here. I go back to these peoples who I didn't know. They brought me there back again. It was better for me and better for these peoples want me back. And then the war was going to be over any day, you know, but didn't know. Then I get letters from these people, no, not these people. I get peoples from underground people. When I know that you want to see that I have it here still. And they send me a letter. Can I have this ene boek? No, is daar een aanzichtkade in? No, forget it. I have to show her the later on.
We can see it later.
Yeah, later. They send me cards. This and this am I. We did find, oh, that is a long time I was working by the boeren again, the farmers again. And there was coming a maid there working too. And the man who was there, the father, I have to tell that back again. They were not, he was not safe with other women, okay? And he took the maid in a room. And the maid screamed to me, Clara, help me. And the father said, don't help her, don't listen to me, and don't. So I go to a different room, and I couldn't say nothing, want I don't know, the war was over already, okay? It all works out well later on, the girl told me. What you know by that time, when you be a child, and you being growing up, then it goes more through you. I have still dreams. Anyway, I go back to the farm, and I have to work again there. Same thing, hard. And then I get cards sent for writing, and then another, I can show it later. And then I was putting the sheets on a grass field. You know how the peoples did, when you do the laundry, you put everything up the grass, then the sun makes it white, bleken, with bleekwater, okay?
Leeches.
Yeah, so the whole laundry, special from all these kids, what was white in the sheets and the towels, I was doing that on the grass. You know what I'm trying to tell you? I was doing that, and it was, it was a lot. And then I put it on the grass, and I saw somebody coming from far away, like I see from far away, and it was coming closer and closer, and I was there by myself, right? And farther away, and I saw him coming closer, where I put the laundry, the sheets, all what I have to put out on the
grass.
Yeah. You know what I'm trying to tell you? I don't know all these names anymore. And then between the grass and the field where the man was coming from, there was so deep water and dirt, you know, water and dirt where I was sleeping in before, something like that. And then he was coming closer, and then I hear screaming, Clara, heel hard. Don't go away. You know, I was going away. What he was trying to tell me, it was my oldest brother. And he found out where I was. He was on the ground for mail and papers to bring back. But the part where he was hearing that the war was close to over, not 100%, but close. He was jumping over that, you know, over that water of the thing, the grave, what they call. Clara, don't walk away. And I think, who is this man? Who is that? I wasn't. Anyway, that was my brother. Finally, I was peeking, and I saw that it was my brother. After all this time, was more than 2 years. And he found me. Well, we hold each other for a long, long time. And then I found out from him, and he brought me a pair of black wool stockings, you know, from his shape. Somewhere he could buy that from who, I don't know. And he saved that, well, he knows that farmers wear that. When you think now, what is it, you know, but that was... And we couldn't leave each other, but he had to go back where he was coming from. And he will tell people that I was in life and that he found me and blah, 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 and whole story. So after that, the other peoples, growing up peoples, they get in contact with me with cards, that they found out that my mother was in life in Theresienstadt, and then she was going over to Bergen-Belsen, to a zederheid, the concentration camp. And then later he found out that my father was in life in one van die kampen. Auschwitz, I don't know the names all exactly. And then they meet each other, they were going and meet each other in a train. And the train was going, the last train, and they were so sick. My sister was in the train, and my baby brother, and they were so sick. So my sister, from that camp, Bergen-Belsen, that was the last camp, where they were, and they found my father, he was crawling to that camp. From one Theresienstadt to, I don't know, with somebody else. I was not there. I have that from to here. Me, myself, I was not with them. They go to a train and they were all vlek typhus they were very sick. And then they didn't know where the train was going. They say that it's good, the train is going, and my sister was thinking that they're going to kill him, where the train was going. So she took my baby brother money, took with him, and my sister's name was Carla. She took him with her, and she was walking through the mist and to the grass and places, but she keeps his hand, and then she let him sleep, you know, on the ground, till they were coming by people who help him, and that were good people, and then they stay there in a little house, but they get food there. And that is how they save the life from my baby brother, money and my sister. But then they found out my parents were so sick, right? They make it. They make it. And they were befried from the, I don't know which name they were when they stopped the train and they threw them out. But then the peoples who found them, they brought them then to Amsterdam, or they were in a sort of Plantage Middelaan, the name where they, and they was coming together and they healed, they get better. Slowly, but they were like bones, you know. They had nothing, no shirts. Just the slacks he was wearing. And they were very dirty and sick, but they help them and they make it. Now, by that part, I was not with them. That is what I hear, so then they found out that I was in life and they want to have me. So when they were getting better, they want to see me. You know, they didn't know. They found out that my oldest brother was in life, right? But they know where I was, by the farmers still. And then they go. They couldn't find a car of a bus who brought them, so they were lifting from car to car, you know. They brought them farther and farther till they get a sort of bus, and they brought me and they brought them to my the farmers where I was. Now I didn't know all that they were on the way to where I was. And then I was writing a letter to the brother from my mother. When my oldest brother was saying he was still in life in Den Haag, H-A-A-G, Haag, in Holland. And, but I never hear him back. But through my oldest brother, I get to know that. And then I was still by the farmers. And then I was stopping, and a big car was stopping, and two people were coming out, and it were my parents. I didn't know that. I didn't. You hardly notice them, but they were saying, "We are papi and mommy, we papi, mommy." They were saying, and they were walking till the door where the farmers live, right? Yeah, what can I say? That was a welcome, and they stayed there and they gave to eat and to drink, and they were so I be fat compared how they were, you know. But they found me and they want me back in that place in Amsterdam where they were. And it was good. Were more people that were coming back from the camp. Plantage Middelaan, they called it in Holland, in Amsterdam. But what I'm trying to say is, so my parents, you can never bring that over what the feeling was for them and for me, you know. That I was not alone more. I had them back, but I couldn't go with them. I couldn't go home with them, you know. These people didn't let me go, you know. They say, we shall bring you back, but so my parents were asking, maybe I have another daughter, maybe you want her. And to make the story back, through peoples, they brought them back to Amsterdam per car, you know. And then my, you know, Limburg is maybe 8 hours of 10 hours driving to Amsterdam, where I was. So. But my sister was coming there, and these parents, from the farmers, they let my parents know that she can do nothing. But how could she do what I did? She was coming out of the camp, right? But so they sent her back with a card and from people who did that work. You know, they took her back. But they want to see that my parents were believable. They know that she couldn't do that work, but they didn't know what I was doing all this time. I did everything. So these people want me back. We want Clara back, we want Clara back. They were, and they was dat ze mij back, they want me back. But when they were coming back in Holland and they had kids who were a certain age, and they say, well, we have a daughter, and that is that certain age. Carla, my sister was too old. My brother was too old, just a few years. My age was still good. I think you have to be under the 15 or something. And it was a place, they sent me to kids from the camp, and who was not there in regular life with the parents. They sent me to Denmark. I was there for a few months, and then I get to eat, and you know, I was a child with children, but I was not a child anymore. I was not used to with kids. I can just show pictures. I was not used to that. I was always with growing up peoples and work like them and more like them. So when I was coming back, and then my parents had a text. Yeah, well, that goes a long way farther. They get, let's say, a dozen nylons. They could buy a piece of material. So my father kon weer heel voorzichtig start something, but he couldn't make a whole suit. He was not that strong. He passed away very soon after he was coming back. He was only 55 years old when he passed away. And yeah, but they brought them through the work, what they did. My mother, my sister. I was coming back in, and then I have to go to school. I couldn't work when you didn't have a certain amount of school years. Well, I didn't have that. I believe you have to finish grade 7 or grade 6, and then you can apply for a job. But when you don't have that, you can go work somewhere, right? Anyway, to make the story short, I don't know how that all was going, but I couldn't work. I couldn't stay in the class. And then I have to go to an evening school. Postzegelmarkt. And I couldn't stay there in this classroom. I was used to big places there, you know. Anyway, to make it short, I start working op een factory, and I could make pyjama broeken, pants. I can do only bzz, stop. Stop, but it makes money, and it helps my father and my mother. Everything helps them, and they could go to a random store, and later on they bought it. My mother bought it, and it was a textile store, but you could sell wool of material of little things, from one thing to the other. But myself, that is really what you want to know. I start working, and when I start to work in a store as as sales lady later on. When I think when I was 16 years, I could work or something. And I started to work till I was a manager in the store, older, you know. And then I learned to know my through my brother. We go dancing with my older brother. Philip was his name. And then I go dancing with him where he was going with his friends. I could go with him. I learned to know my husband there. A friend.
Was it a Jewish club or something?
Yeah, outside. In the summer there was a big terrace and there was people making music. Very knowing in Amsterdam was that. And it was, I could go with my brother and through him I learned to know. It was most people's in Bergen-Belsen where my parents were and my sister. There were peoples with children and they passed away. And they asked, by that time my mother was still in that camp in the Holland, in life, right? And they asked my mother to take care of the kids. But my mother, she hardly had no food itself, but the peoples died, so she took the kids. And then special two boys, Gerrit Groen and Johnny Kleinkramer, yeah. And it was like, she took in the house later on, and it was like family. It brought family around. You know, my mother keep all the parents were not there anymore. Later on, that stay always friends with my oldest brother. Not my youngest brother, but he was to know, you know, he was only a few years. And he was, I think he was 5 years, and you can go to kindergarten or something. That was his first school in Holland, you know. But it is very hard to think about it. And there is a lot of things, but listen, I've been now close to 92. So what can I say?
And you met your husband at the dance?
I met my husband, Appie de Hond. And he was in a place in the same, in Limburg, well, you didn't know that. But he was more in a home where they had a big yard on the back, and he could help the back in the garden for the plants to put in and vegetables, you know, but not a real farmer work. He was there and helped, and it was true peoples. And he started smoking already by that time, you know. He was only 11 months older than I am. And then he passed away, we married, and we get these beautiful kids.
When did you come to Canada?
I come to Canada, that was a long time after. When we married, by that time it was very hard to get a place to live. You know, the housing was not available so we rent something that was in Holland, right? I come back and I learned, Appie was his name, my husband. And I married, I was 22. And
did you have a traditional home? Did you celebrate the holidays together?
When we were married, yes. We were never Orthodox, but it celebrate the holidays. The kids know that. You can remember that, right? And but I was not. I kept food too, what we are supposed to eat. nothing else. But I always was saying, when you be growing up and you have your own place, you can do what you can eat and whatever you want. But not here, not by me. I go to the synagogue, he had his bar mitzvah.
So you believe in God after all of this?
Yes, we have to believe in something. When we don't believe, what we have to do. I still remember the Jewish songs what we will learn. Special on my father's side, he was more to the Jewish fathers, my mother. They were different, but they keep the holidays. They keep the bar mitzvahs van the kids and bar mitzvahs van the girls. Everything they keep. So I was brought up with that, right? And but none of the other family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, none was coming back. So we all missed that. But I had my father and my mother when they were coming. That was all. And my sister, she married Carla. She was coming back too, and she married a Jewish man and had 5 kids. These 5 kids are married. They're grandparents already. They live in Holland. And they always call me and they come here and I be a sort of aunt. I be an aunt, but you know, they call me and they come over here and I come over there. When not now anymore, I be a little bit too old. If I go with the kids, I go.
So
when I go with the kids, yeah.
And why did you come to Canada?
I come to Canada in the time when I was married. They were talking about the Korea War was coming. The Korea, do I say that right? War was supposed talking about it, that there was coming war again. And then we were so afraid, we were just coming back, and then my in-laws, they were going to Canada, want there was already one brother was coming over here with his wife. They were ondergedoken. They were bij in a house, you know, with non-Jewish people after the war, and they were coming over here in Canada, and then I was married 10 years already in Holland, and I had both children, but my husband had never the needles van pokken, the needles when smallpox and rabies. He didn't get when he was a child. So we couldn't go to Canada. So I started working in a factory, and I work. And the kids, my mother took care of the children. When I was working and in the store, my husband was sick, he couldn't walk. You know, he walks in high men's shoes, black shoes, what you over your ankle have to wear. Want he was, through the needle what he get, that was not right. It was, you know, I don't know if you know that, but you get all papers and you have to show that when you want immigration. And they saw that he had the smallpox. And you need to have the smallpox to come to another country. In this case, it was Canada. So we can go. So he started working in the fruit business. In the wholesale, in fruit business. And then venten, you know, go langs houses of, he had a place to stay with a sort of car with all fruit on it, and he could sell that. But we couldn't go to Canada yet. We have to stay. In 10 years I was living in Holland, married, and tried to keep all what we had. You know, we had an apartment, and the kids at home, and it was still in our mind to go to another land, to another immigration, and that was Canada. His parents were here, right? But I started working here, and I didn't spoke the language. I still don't speak really rough English, you know, enough to make. So Joey was going to kindergarten, and Betty was going to grade 1. And I started to work as superintendent in a building. And my husband, he started... Pardon me?
In Toronto?
In Toronto, yeah. And my husband started to work as he had a lot of knowledge from electricity, you know. He started to work by Fox, the wings, the air from the airplanes. He started working. And then, first he started to work by pickles, the vegetables, the zuur, you know, the pit, zuur, pickles. Pickles, yeah. He started working there. And then I rented here 1 bedroom. And we tried to sleep there. And then when we had enough money, we had a 2 bedroom. But I stay in the apartment where I was superintendent, and I started working there. And this man hired me, and he was a Jewish man, and he lost his wife in Bergen-Belsen too, and his daughter in Bergen-Belsen, in the same concentration camp where my mom was. And he said, okay, don't matter when you don't speak English. I didn't speak English at all. My hands, and he said, but you know what? You can do it. And he hired me, and I rent on 17 on Culver Road, across from the hospital, by Kiel Street. And I was superintendent there. My husband did the autoclave, that all electric, he could do that. And I have to clean the building, right, the floors. But we did it, we made it. And these people, I was working, you know, I was so used for work. I always work, and so I clean the stairs and the vacuum clean and blah, blah, the whole thing. And then we promised my mother, when it is okay in Canada, I stay and you come to us to see us. And when it is not okay, after 2 years, we will come back and stay in Holland. And we promised that, so I go back with the children to stay. And then I took the kids and I go to Amsterdam for 3 weeks, 21 days was exactly. And then in this time, my husband saw what I did for work, you know, so much. And he couldn't see that anymore, so he gave the job up. And then he go from the big pickles, he goes to work by the Fox, the airplane and the planes and the small things what belongs in the wings from the airplane. I don't know, he was doing that. And he found something out. He get an extra $50 for it. I remember that. And always we were working, and in the evening he was painting by the peoples or wallpapering to make extra money till we could buy an house. And that is how I was living. My husband passed away very young. He was just 67 years old. And he get cancer from smoking. And but he was always working 2 extra jobs, you know, and he was very smart in paperwork. He was an accountant. What can I say? You know. So I bought a house. Then I lived 10 years in that house by myself. And then I bought this place with the help from the kids. And myself, I started working in a job. It was in a laboratorium. Cornout, maybe you remember that laboratorium Cornout. It is now a different name. And I started to work there, and these doctors want to hire me, but I couldn't write English, and I could read it through the kids. They go in school, and you learn from the children, and the television, you pick up something. But I started working from the superintendent. I could get a job by the university to be on the kassa when the students buy lunch, and then you have to be on the kassa. But I couldn't do the kassa. I never did that, right? And then had a choice to go by the laboratorium, but I could not. So I took the job, and they want to have me as a secretary, and then I couldn't do that I couldn't work, I couldn't write, I couldn't speak, and they want me, and special, you know. We like you. There are all doctors that works there in the laboratorium. To make the story short, I was working there for 14 years. And then I started to work half days. I took care of my in-laws. And I live close to Anne Frank in Amsterdam. Anne Frank, you know the story. And that was the Prinsengracht. She lived there, and I lived very close to her. Yeah. She was 2 years older than I was.
Did you know her?
Personally, no. I can't say from mouth to mouth, no, but, you know, I was too young for that. Yeah, there was a lot of stories between it, but I not specific can say when I don't, you know, work. From the day I left my parents till that I come here, I work. I was working by Connaught all these years, and then I was working half days by in the laboratorium, and then I stopped working. Then then my husband passed away. He was sick 3 years with the cancer, and I took care of him in the house. And then
And you have grandchildren?
I have 7 beautiful grandchildren. They are all married and live together, but there are a few are married. and I have 3 great grandchildren. And they're delicious, and my kids are very good to me, and it goes from both sides. And what can I say more? I be happy that I be still here. I drive a little bit in the area here, not big, not long distance, you know. Yeah, that is a little bit what I am doing. And in the winter I go to Florida, and then it's here too cold for me now. I can't go out, and the kids took all they come to visit me, and they come take always good care of me. I have 7. I have one. What more can I say? The kids are all the grandchildren. I be very close with. The kids are with me. They are very lovely. They're coming to me.
Do you talk to them about your war experiences?
I did, but I can't bring it over so much else. Okay, I try to do my best to bring it over to you. There is a lot of things what I forget. There's a lot of things maybe what I can't remember from the beginning till the end where I be still in contact with the peoples, what I just said in the 2 families. The other peoples, they found me, they looked for me, they moved to Canada, and they found out that I live here. And they found out where I was living. So they write a letter to my husband and myself if we can come in contact. Want, you know, we divided all in the letter. Sure, we make right away contact. And she's a very nice lady in St. Catherine, right? They live. And I be still in contact with them. And the other one from the weefspoelfabriek, I be still in contact with the oldest child, who is now in the 80s too, on the phone. And
I should say that
may I?
they were at Daniel's bar mitzvah.
And why is it important for you to tell your story?
I think special, the kids were asking me, the grandchildren were asking me. They all know it, and my husband and myself, we never talk about too much to the children. We work, and try to give the kids a good life so much as we could do. We bought a little boat and a trailer. So we go to, what you call that, Omimi. Omimi was the place, up north somewhere. So we were working the whole week. And I took care of the food on Thursday night. On Friday after work, the kids were that age we couldn't leave them alone, right? And they need something too, so we bought a trailer over there. They could play, they could swim, they could go in the boat. And what did you do? Water skiing. We want to let the kids a good life. And it didn't help if we told all the stories with my husband and myself, and what I did, all this, what I know what I was working, what I did. But I always was working. Don't matter where I go, I was working. I helped my husband to, it's too bad that he couldn't live now, but I've been 26 years by myself. Yeah. It is a hard life, but on the other side, I have the kids and the grandchildren, and they are all lovely and very nice. And I give them the opportunity to be in the Jewish mind. And Betty, she have a Jewish husband, and Joey, she had huh?
I don't have a Jewish husband.
Well, she's divorced now, so she's, but, and she have 3 kids, Alex, you know, and Alex, and she have 2 little boys, and Daniel, you know, and Kayla, she's going engagement last week, I think, but it's all Jewish. And Joey, die doet all zijn best too. He's working day and night. He brought up 4 kids, all good brains and schools, and they all. One daughter is married here in Canada. One daughter, she is what you call that? One daughter is an architect, and 2 boys are very high in the, I don't know even the name of it, but he make good. And we have a lawyer in the family, her kids, you know, so they all work. But it is the work, the studies what the kids give to my grandchildren. They work day and night, both of them, you know. They make, and he's still doing it. He's still working. So is she in her own way. I be not good in my English writing, so Betty do that for me. She takes care. So that is how I live. But to be alone and yeah, keep myself together. That is and is a big story what you hear from. Maybe there is enough people who can tell this story. I think my sister was at 5 kids after the war. And right, they all doing well. They live all in Holland still, and a few in Israel. We are more to the Jewish side, all right? And they are all very too orthodox, yeah, for this. You know, all close, but we keep everything going. The holidays, the feestdagen, what you call it, all this we do together, yeah, most of it.
Do you have any pictures or artifacts that you want to show?
Yeah, but
the ticket?
Oh, from yeah, but then I have to look in my bedroom where I put it. Can I go there? Can I? Yeah. Can I do that?
You can go.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Er was een razzia and ik kom to all the houses to pick it up. Unbewusst. They didn't let you know when they were coming. So my mother told me, but that is between it. I be still then in the Retiefstraat, okay? Before I go away from my parents. That is. when they come over here, then we were living on the second floor, and my mama say, you go upstairs to the third floor, and or the third floor, and when they coming, you have to fall from the third to the second floor, and that was high. And then you have to scream when you be in pain or not be in pain. You only say, you don't want to go, you don't want to go, and I want to walk away, you know. Me, I have to say that all. I don't know if you followed me.
Uh-huh.
The people were coming on the door, then I was still in the Tiefstraat, okay? And Moni was toen still a baby, right? I was 10, it was 10 years between us, you know. So then you say he had roodvonk. What is red? When your whole body is in red spots. Measles. No, there is some. Who?
Chickenpox?
Chickenpox, yeah, and it is very, contagious.
Uh-huh.
And you start to scream. So they were coming on the door, and the bonds right away, and it was very hard, then they have to open the door. And they say, don't come in, want there is, there is sickness here that is very contagious. We don't care, and they were coming in. So, and I don't want to, and then I ran up to the stairs, and high trap, I don't know how, that was high, and I let fall myself from the third to the second floor, and I was crying, and I don't go, and my mother say, it was all a lie, the little one have chickenpox, and she has chickenpox, she's afraid, and she have fever. Contagious, of, what is the word, contagious? And so they took my father away, my sister, and my older brother. They took with them, and my mother could stay by the baby, and I couldn't walk. I was still laying on the stairs, downstairs, crying from the pain. But I have to do it harder, and crying that I didn't want to go, So my mother could stay, my baby brother could stay, and I could stay. Don't ask how, but I could stay. And then they all have to go, they brought them to the Plantage Middelland. It was a big hall. And they brought all these people who they pick up in that hall. And there was my father and my sister, my oldest brother, they brought them over there too. But we had peoples, they let them know that they were contagious. That word is hard for me to say. Want it was in the house, there were 2 kids very sick, So after a few days that they were, say 2 days, they were in the contagious, and it was in the Plantage Middelland. I know that hall. And later on, they let them out. And after they let them out, then my parents started work that they let the kids go, my sister and myself, with his friend to what I just told you, from Amstelveen. That was, yeah. And then, we were, you couldn't be on the street. It is so hard to say that. You being child, and you remember everything what goes on in your life and what you do in all these years. But to say that, it's very hard. So these are our pictures from the children. I didn't know I could look. I could look
Do
the
you want
other.
to show that picture on the camera?
You know
That one?
Here's
If you
here's a
put it up.
picture of her as a young girl.
If she wants to show it.
This is who I come over here.
Show it to the camera.
Can you see that?
Yep, tell us who they are.
Who is that?
That is my husband, myself, and that is Joe, and that is Betty. That was the way they took that picture before I was going away. And they didn't like that I was going on the way out. And it was a picture that I was going to school.
Can you see that?
For,
Hold it up. You can put that there.
where?
Just leave it on the table. Hold it towards me.
That's you.
That's me.
How old were you then?
I was going to the grote school, from the kindergarten to the grote school.
The big school.
You know, when you...
Grade
so
one.
I was here when you go from maybe 7 years old, maybe. You know, I'm sorry. When I know that I didn't know what you want to see.
Well, you know what, I can, if you want, if
Oh,
I
who's that?
get some pictures.
That are my grandparents,
That's your
the parents from my mother,
mother's side.
yeah.
Pardon?
Names?
Oh, do you know their names?
Pardon me?
What's their names?
I be named after her, Clara, and that is Philip, my oldest brother, was named after him. And he was a diamond worker, what was it in Holland? Diamond slijper, diamond slijper.
Oh, okay. And the other?
And it was my mother,
Hold it more this way.
And what's her name?
Elizabeth. Lies.
You know, can I say something or no? No, but I,
Well, if you go on
this
camera,
is-
you just need to sign.
I need you to
okay, I
sign.
will. Okay, this is a picture of the girl that named her, that's Kitty, the one that lives in St. Catherine's.
Oh, well,
That you
yeah.
stayed in touch with.
Let me see.
Dat is I was bij de parents dan, right? Dat is say I be still in contact with them. That is the one she lives in St. Catherine and one in Utrecht.
And
In
there's
Holland.
a picture of the school that you went to in
Yeah.
Denmark there too.
You know what? I have to. Then I have to look to everything now. When I
Did you have one of the grandkids you want to show or anything?
Oh, there's one here.
what?
That's a picture.
You, I don't know what you show. You know what? I can. I have that thing, that machine on the kitchen table. You want to see that? That is where all the grandchildren op staan. I have them. I have now 7 grandchildren, but with partners, I have 14. And you know, the 7 grandchildren are married or live
Yes.
together, and they have great grandchildren. I 3.
No, that's, is
You
there
know.
anything else you want to say?
Wha- Oh, whoa.
No,
Maybe cut it for a sec. No, I was gonna get a picture of just all the family without her husband, no?
Joey,
No?
stop it.
Okay, she doesn't want it. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say?
I will say thank you, and I do it special. My children, they know now what goes through for the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, that it goes farther, that they know what it was. Work, work, work. You know, that is all what I can say. You work, you make friends, you lose friends, especially at my age, you lose friends. I be too much alone, I know that, but I be still okay, I be fine. With my children, I can make it. I don't know what else I can say. I be good, sometimes I be more happy the one day than the other one. I have a nice daughter-in-law, and huh?
I think that's good. I think you're going over
Yeah.
stuff. I think we're good.
Thank you.
You
Thank
know,
very
I don't
much.
know, there is always so much to say, but I don't know really all the speeches, what I have,
There's so many pictures.
you know,
Thank you very much.
and the